Hello everybody, let's do a special video about Incursions. Now, as a lot of you know, if you saw the new show yesterday, you'll know that Incursions is going to be getting some love. It's definitely a mode that needs an extensive amount of work. Just before recording this particular video, I did a run in Sector 8 and also did a run in Sector 7, which you can see the end point right here. And there's definitely a lot of problems when it comes to this particular game mode, and especially as it becomes out of favor with other game modes like Battlegrounds and the extent of 6-star shards, 5-star shards, resources, rank 4 6-star materials, all those things that you really want to see but you just can't get to at the moment. And whether that will be from the extent of what you pick up from milestones or what you pick up from the top zone bonuses, it's definitely something that needs to be addressed. But there's some things about the game mode in particular that extensively needs to be addressed, and that's why we're doing this video of putting together 10 things that Incursions needs to improve on. And also what I'll be doing is I'll be putting on the screen like footage from previous kind of like Incursions runs, situations where things aren't kind of like solidifying some of the points. And also you can check out the description where I've written up some of this particular top 10. I'll try to submit a lot of the stuff, especially feedback that you players have given myself and my own to Kabam, in order to kind of give them a bit of an idea of, like, you know, where the kind of limitations and problems are with this particular game mode. So the number one problem I see with Incursions is boss banning, boss rerolling. Essentially, some of the node combinations can be just disgusting, and especially with certain champions being enemy bosses being those that just interact unfairly with that particular node. It feels like you should be able to reroll either the boss or the nodes that are on that particular thing. They're kind of like a randomizer which you get in game. Funnily enough, I actually have some in my inventory. So basically having these buff randomizers or kind of like node randomizers, the way to re-roll to get better nodes would be just like a better thing for the kind of interaction with those particular bosses. Number 2 is pace. Pace of this particular game mode is a massive issue at the moment. The first part of this is that Sector 8, when I went to grind it with a friend, and we were doing 2 6-star rank 4s and like one kind of, you know, whatever champion it was, maybe rank 3 6-star. It took 1 hour and 30 minutes to get to room 10. This was non-suicide masteries, and that is a very long time, especially to get to a point where you are literally getting just a morsel of 6-star shards. Again, we'll talk about rewards being another thing, an issue. Sector 7, again, very similar situation. I used my two rank 4 6 stars and 1 rank 3 6-star with non-suicide masteries, which took 42 minutes to get to room 7. That's a long time, especially considering it should be more, you know, a quicker process, but people do slow it down, more so when you're doing things like reading nodes, because reading nodes is very important in Incursion. Next up is node pickup, or buff pickup, sorry, hack pickup even. And the big thing with this is, like, if you miss out on an opportunity because you've had to revive or kind of like heal up, you lose badly. Like, if you have a mistake, a problem, and look, with the current input system being as bad as it is in game, as well as a lot of things with connection issues, players get affected by this. It was definitely something that I noticed when I even did like Sector 7 with this random person, is that they obviously suffered when it's some sort of like connection issues. And look, like, this is something that I think needs to be better addressed to allow players to go further, especially if you have to bump up and buff the rewards that are coming our way. Continuing that particular thought process on inputs, and inputs in future rooms are really bad. Being unresponsive in times when you are literally, number 1, taking damage through block extensively, and number 2, when you're trying to do certain things like doing a parry and the input doesn't work, and especially in those future rooms where it's quite mysteriously they just don't work as best as they do, and especially when the enemy AI profiles are so bad and wonky, which in the end is another thing. That's something that needs to be improved. So inputs in that particular game mode seem to be like worse. Next is refresh cost. As like, you know, the refresh cost is stinky. Like, it's 120 units and a 5-day 20-hour point of reset. That is incredibly stinky, especially looking at the extent of what Battlegrounds is bringing in versus obviously this content. And I'm sure that Kabam have got this kind of like eyed up to be dealt with, because that is pretty bad, especially for that. And also when it comes to like other things as well, which we'll talk about in a moment. The next thing is AI profiles. We talk about this a lot, and you know, Kabam set up a certain AI profile for certain champions and certain things, whether or not it's a boss, defender, whatever. One of the biggest problems I see with Incursions is the way that the enemy champions move. Sector 7 has better AI profiles than Sector 8. Of course, that's going to be where, you know, the more spicy rewards going to be in Sector 8. Yes, that is facts. But at the same time, Kabam don't need to do this, especially if you consider the further you go within Incursions is better. So allowing us to go to further rooms would just be more, you know, fun for players. And Incursions is meant to be more of a fun type game mode. It's certainly not fun when it comes to like AI being incredibly passive and defensive, which just negatives a lot of things. And in particular, nodes, right? Nodes are created in a certain way that interact around champions. If a champion is got brute force, for example, and is barely moving, it's a problem. The same way if it has something like brute force and oscillate, for example, that can be really stinky. Even more when it comes to the bosses, and they've got things like power flood and other elements which don't interact with the 3 champions you bring in. And sometimes losing out those champions, or losing out a specific champion you've ramped up, like Aegon, for example, and taking it out can be a bit problematic. So yeah, AI profiles need to be dealt with quite extensively. Next up is connection and network issues. This is something that was interesting when I was playing with Super Duper Boo the other day, and he is in Australia, I am in the UK. We both experienced bad connection issues. Now, again, I don't know, maybe I'm guessing here to say that there's only like one server for Marvel Contest of Champions, and that is in North America. Whether or not there's one that's kind of like in a different area, but like trying to figure out a kind of like a good triangulation for connection is a bit of a problem. And especially when you're trying to like, you've got like the swirly whirly and connection problems trying to get into the next room, it slows down pace, and pace is the biggest problem when it comes to, or one of the biggest problems when it comes to Incursions. You want to quickly get on with stuff, you want to quickly fight, and it's limited by that fact that if you can't move, or it takes such a long time to connect into move, and you get the dreaded kind of communication kind of issue of network. Revives and health potions. Incursions, revives and health potions I think need to be given out a bit more frequently, and especially on the paths. Especially like from a cost factor, I'm sure that people would differ in their kind of like thought process with them, and also the extent of usage with them. Under the current like meta for that particular game mode, and again compared with other ones, it kind of feels like better that they would have them in some sort of way of going, okay, well, yes, you can at the end pick up a revive from, you know, the particular like elements of, right, we'll go to the end, revive the team, and okay. But again, that factors into the problem we said about that as soon as you lose, and again, like what we're talking about losing here is KOing champions, that is a loss. It's a double loss because you then kind of lose out on that particular buff hack that you would get, and that kind of takes you into further rooms. Those lower ones, yeah, okay, they're all right, but it's like it does take away from the fact that you need to get the better ones to ramp up to go into further rooms and further rooms. And it may be a case like, you know, they add in more hacks, and that's something, you know, with honorable mentions at the end with it. But it would be nice to see like maybe giving out a bit more rather than kind of saying like you know, one revive on a path, similar like you have with questing. Like why kind of like you have it in questing with a random revive and random health potions on the routes. Wouldn't it be great to have like, I don't know, once every 2 rooms is like a random revive just like there, which is just, you know, you can pocket that at a later date. And I'm not talking like a super spicy one, I'm talking like maybe like it's going to be like a level 1 one, or it's kind of like, yeah, level 2, but I'd probably say Kabam would probably do level 1. Next, it's got to be rewards. Like, rewards aren't exactly, and I think Kabam would agree, they're not up with the current meta. Even from the artifact exchange kind of like issues, in that the volume is just like 2,000 for 32,000 dark artifacts. Like the amount of time it takes to get like a full stack of 32,000 dark artifacts, it's just not worth it. I would say if Kabam plan to improve this in future months, hoard your dark artifacts as much as possible, because there could be like a better kind of breakdown of this, and especially from getting like I would say nowadays 32,000 should be getting you a 6-star nexus with the extent of like effort and work you have to go in order to kind of get it done. But again, that's down to like Kabam to kind of like readdress this and look into it. But we all know with the extent of grind you do with Battlegrounds versus the amount of grind that you do with Incursions, it's kind of like you're not getting the same amount back for it for your level of effort. So it's definitely something that needs to be addressed for this game mode. And the final thing has got to be solo mode. So solo mode is definitely something that a lot of players have called out for. And I think that's like something that's good because you don't have to rely so much on another person. And especially for pace and as well, like, you know, if they make mistakes, therefore you can feel angered or annoyed with another player. And also they don't have to feel kind of like frustrated and annoyed that they didn't perform well on that particular day. So that's something to kind of like, you know, I think that would be good. Lots of people have great suggestions of what we need to see. You know, add some 6-star crystals, maybe even nexuses or cav nexuses. Ah, yes, nice. The only reason I don't play Incursions is because you cannot play it solo. Again, solo being a kind of like a thing as well. Buff rewards says Abby also reduce cooldown of champions. Absolutely. When solo queuing, maybe introduce a ban for certain time if players leave the game or not responding. That's true because it does ruin the pace, and speed is kind of very important. The same way Battlegrounds adds in extent of pace. Improve the chat box for Incursions chat. Bugs sometimes it can't go into. That's important as well. Communication is key. There's tons of kind of like information from players here. Longer rooms for overall shorter runs. 6 fights for 5 rooms instead of 3 for 10. That's not such a bad kind of like idea, especially because there's so much loading between screen. That's a very good one right there. Also, from my perspective, SP3, right? There's no skip in kind of Incursions. That needs to be kind of like put in. I do think that's something as well. Problem with Incursions is it's so unstable. Half the time I can't see the chat. Room doesn't start, have restart the game. First step should be just make it a bit more stable. That's a good point. Loot chests. Loot chests are in each room with random loot, like one. That would spice it up. That's a good little spicy addition right there. Counterattack says make 10 rounds last 30 minutes. Yes. Pace, that's what we're talking about. 32k incursion. Yeah, adding more like 6-star shards, 6-star signature stones. They're interesting as well. Many times when you play with a random teammate, he either has left or quit, but still our champs go to cooldown. Yeah, so it's like talking about the punishment that maybe a player would get as a result. Honestly, there's tons of great suggestions right here, so shout out to everybody. I'll be taking as much info as possible and seeing if we can ping something to Kabam to say like, look, you know, we've got these ideas here. That'd be cool. Also, someone said like a superior Kang as a boss. Maybe, I don't know. But in any case, like, that has been it. That's been the video. It's been interesting to return back to this particular content and see like what the vibe is, you know, check it and see like what we're doing here, where we're lacking, create some lists, create some info, ping it over to Kabam, and hopefully we get some kind of like good feedback, and maybe in the future months this game mode, which I've ducked for a long time because it just hasn't interested me and the rewards have fallen out of favor, can get that love, get that revamp, that spice. So interested to see what the future is with this game mode. Excited based on what Kabam have said in this response. And that's been a video. Thank you very much everyone for watching. Check out some other content which is located on screen. Have a great day whatever you're doing, and see you soon. Bye bye.